Welcome to the Seller Roundtable e-commerce coaching and business strategies with Andy Arnott and Amy Wees.
And I think it's so important that comes back to your 5 priorities, and that's knowing your customer, because your customer might not be B2B. And so your customer might not be on LinkedIn. And so the importance of the content that you're posting, whether you're on TikTok or you're growing on Facebook or wherever you are, it's so important to know your customer above all other things, because that is, like I have a friend, and she also does B2B services as well. She's a coach, and she started just consistently recording on TikTok. And when she started creating TikToks, there was nobody in our industry really doing anything on TikTok, but she has grown her business so much just from leads from TikTok, because she was the first one to kind of post things on there. And it's the same thing is happening with Clubhouse. I met a guy on Clubhouse who started pitching. He was creating masks, face masks with people's logos on them. And he was doing this from his home. So not even print on demand, right? He was doing it from his home. And he started getting, because he got laid off from his job, right? So he started getting on Clubhouse and getting in these pitch rooms and pitching. And before he knew it, he had some major clients, like some big names that were in these rooms. And he just got brave and started pitching. And now he's making face masks with logos for businesses. And he's grown his following, and now he's like hosting Clubhouse rooms and stuff like that. So I think it's so awesome. You've given me some great tips for LinkedIn, and I'm going to use those. But I also think it's so important to know your customer and where they're located. And you also said something about, like, it's all about the content that you post. You're showcasing your knowledge, you're showcasing who you are, right? So if you know where your customer is, and for those of you who have private label brands, that's wherever your customer hangs out, that's where you should be. Like, I'm in the cat business, I have a pet brand, so I need to be posting where the cat people are hanging out, right? Yes. And I need to be showcasing my authority and drawing those people to my brand in that way, right?
Yeah, and the principles apply, no matter in that case, with LinkedIn, it's your profile, so it might be a website as an example. Then you're putting out really good content. The great thing with LinkedIn is that it's free and it's organic. It's still the last bastion of that. So I can literally take 15 minutes to do a post and get 100,000 views, right, and engagement and clients off it, and it didn't cost me a cent. So I think that's great. And then the last one is the possibility. So when you do tap someone on the shoulder, so you could do that on any platform. It could be Instagram, it could be Clubhouse, whatever. When you're reaching out to someone, isn't it great if you can actually say, well, thanks for commenting on this particular topic. That's a lovely way, because they've already liked, well, they've certainly seen your content. They've looked at your profile if they've looked at your post. And then when you reach out to them, it's not cold, right? It's more warm. And the third thing with LinkedIn is that possibilities of reaching out. And I think there's a lot of people that, just send spam. I think we all, receive that. But I think if you can link it to the other two, well, then it becomes really powerful.
And let's shift over to that last element that you talked about, creating a team so that we're not just creating a job for ourselves. So how do we pick the right experts so that we can remove some of these hats that we wear?
Yeah, look, it's, for me personally, it was one of the hardest things I found when I left Coca-Cola, because, Coke, we just attracted really great experts. So we had the best people in the world, and I was just used to hiring someone and they would get the job done. I went into my own business and I thought it'd be the same, and I got burnt on several occasions. And I'm talking huge amounts of money. One in particular was a grant-based business where I went and got a grant for exporting. Everything was fine. The tax department called me and said, the company that you used has gone into receivership. We need now to audit all of your findings and your work. I'm like, but I don't have it. They've got it. And I said, well, sorry, if you can't do that by the end of the week, we're going to ask you to pay us back all the money plus interest. So, that was effectively like a wage for my family for the year. And so one thing I think is, peer referrals really important. Just don't go by face value. So, we've got 400 vetted experts around the world. When someone says, hey, I need an e-com expert, I go, well, here, these are the people that you go to. So I've collected that now because of my own experience, but I think tap in to your networks to get that. I think often experts, and particularly in the marketing area, are brilliant at marketing themselves, but that doesn't always mean they're great in delivering a product. So I think peer referral is, I think, one of the best ways to find experts.
One of the things that I learned from Andy works with a really cool mentor named Dan Martell, and he introduced me to his work as well. And one thing that I learned on that was to really, that your website is your 24/7 sales page. And it's one of the most important things that you can build to represent yourself. And you wouldn't believe how many marketing experts or supposed experts will reach out to you, not only on Facebook, but on LinkedIn. So my little hack to kind of vet them is I say, well, go ahead and, it's great that you reached out to me. Go ahead and send me your website. I'll contact you if I'm interested. Thanks. And most of them, many of them, do not have a website, or if they do have one, it's very poorly done. And so I use that as like my initial vetting point. And then I agree with you 100%. Getting those referrals is so, so, so important. Because I think all of us have been burned. And what you said about, you left your job and you just expected to be able to hire people, you managed people in your job and everything was fine. And I kind of had the same expectation. I left my, job in working for government, and I had managed many teams for many years. And I thought this will be fine, but there was a lot of that. So one of the hardest hurdles for me to overcome was a remote team, was running a remote team. So can you give us some tips on how to effectively run a remote team?
Yeah, and I suppose with the Coke company, I was sort of part of a remote team for all of my career because, whether it was by state, whether it's by country, I did a lot of work with other countries around the world, because that was the benefit of the Coke company, is that, they shared their knowledge brilliantly because, most problems that came up, someone else had already come across them, right? So we were sort of in a culture of, they used to say, think global, act local. And I think the same applies with your remote team, that the first thing I think is the culture, right? So no matter whether someone's working for you directly or they're a specialist within your team, I think it's really important to set up that culture. Like, how do you work? What are your principles? I call them guiding principles. What are the things that are important? What are your values? What are your behaviors? What are your routines and rituals? I think they're the things that you need to set up front, so everyone sort of knows collectively, how we're going to work. Okay, so that's not saying that individuals can't be individuals, but as a team, what's our playbook here? What's our rules? So I think setting up that culture, and you as a leader living that culture, I think is really important from the outset. I think the next one is around asynchronous communication. I think, it's great to have live calls, and it's great to, get on Zoom, etc. But I think also the power of leaving messages, giving someone the time to think about it and reply. So, yes, there was email. Now it's a lot more effective. So we use Voxer, but there's WhatsApp. There's, other forms of communication that's asynchronous. So I think that's really important. The other one is getting to know the person really well. Okay. So, it's often easy to be a little bit more removed because it's remote, but I have a little file, and every, I ask my team, firstly, when someone comes onto my team, I ask all about them. So, what are your passions in life? Your family, tell me a little bit about your family, those things. So I'm getting to know the person. And then I've got a little file that each time someone says something about their family or whatever, I sort of collect that information. So I'm actually asking them about those things, because I think it's easy being remote to sort of say, well, it's more just about work. Whereas no, people are people. And I think you've still got to build that relationship with the team.
Yeah, I absolutely love that, Paul. And the thing, one of the, I don't know what tools you use, but like I'm always trying new tools, right? I'm a software guy, but I feel like once, I used to use Skype, and then I tried like Trello, and finally I've landed at my absolute favorite for coordination is Slack, and I'd heard the hype for years, and I tried it the first time, and this happens for a lot of tools, right? You'll try it for the first time, and you'd be like, I don't get this. But then when you actually take some time to like really dig into it, I mean, Slack is absolutely amazing. My productivity and my communication with my team has gone up so much since we've, taken that on. And when you combine that with things like Zapier, that automation goes to the next level. Like I said, I'm a software automation guy. So anything that I can do that lets me automate tasks, I absolutely love. And if you combine that with a VA and with, virtual employees, then you're talking going to the next level, right? Now it's almost like cloning yourself. So I absolutely love that. And everybody knows that we've talked about Airtable a bunch, like I said, that's another one of my favorites. Any other tools that you use to keep your team synced up? Maybe Google Drive is another one we use a lot.
Yeah, look, I think you've mentioned some great ones there. And actually, we had a tech consulting business. So, when I was advising to small business owners, I saw two big gaps, and they were really the Coke company's strengths, right? It was, how do you leverage technology? How do you leverage people? Pretty simple. So I set up an outsourcing business, and we set up a tech consulting business. So we advise agencies all around the world on what tech they should use. And, if I look at the core suite, I think you nailed it with a project management software. It doesn't matter which one, right? We prefer Asana. Doesn't matter if it's ClickUp's another great one at the moment, Trello. It doesn't really matter. But I really think that there should be a divide between when you're communicating with someone versus when you're setting a task, right? And I think that is really important, because a lot of things get missed because, in Slack, it's a great tool, but it can get overwhelming, right? It's no different to email, where what I like is, if you're going to task me to do something, I won't ever read a notification, refuse to, right? It's because it's too much noise. But what I will do is, if you task me and mark it high, medium, or low, I will do that, right? So I think no matter what project management software you use, and I think they're really important, make sure that you're very clear on what goes in a chat, like a Slack, a WhatsApp, or a Voxer, versus what goes in Asana as a task. So I think that's one key thing. The other one you mentioned is, cloud-based documents. We're a Google through and through. So I think that's brilliant for a small business. As soon as I left Coke, I decided, never work with Microsoft again, even though Microsoft owned LinkedIn. But I think that's really important. And, with that, just have clear structures of where things go, because search is brilliant. But I think, naming files, like, it sounds a simple thing, but if you have a naming protocol, then it's really easy for people to find stuff. Because just think, how often do you waste time trying to find things? And when you're naming things, because, I led teams of 200 people, et cetera, in the past, I always set it up like, what happens? How's all of these 200 people going to find it? Even if you're one, by the time you get a VA, et cetera, on board and build a team, if you've started that practice from the start, it's going to make it so much easier when you bring a team in. So I think those naming protocols is really important. As I said before, I think you should have a dedicated sales CRM. We use Copper, which integrates into Gmail beautifully. So Copper Sales CRM. So I think, it's important to have that. I think, ecom, may be different, but I think that. And then I think the other key one is, around video these days. I think video is so powerful. Make sure you got a video tool in your arsenal. So we use Dub, it's DUBB. And, that's fantastic for me on LinkedIn. I send video messages rather than text-based, so people know me. I'll bring up their profile. But, the power of video to your team, to consumers. So, there's lots of great platforms out there, but make sure you have a video platform that makes it really easy for you.
Yeah, absolutely love that. And what people don't realize is they want to see the face and the team behind the product, right? I mean, they want to know and trust you. You can say all you want on your sales copy page, but if they get on and they go, oh, I don't know about that guy, they're not going to do business with you. I feel like, yeah, I mean, you almost never see that on LinkedIn. I actually laugh as a marketer when I get these automated messages, which everybody gets on LinkedIn like crazy. And my wife, who's a real estate agent, I told her, you got to start really investing on LinkedIn. And, I've told lots of other people this because it's so underutilized. And the amount of traction you get on LinkedIn is what Facebook was in the beginning, right? It's the organic traffic and the views and things like that. And like you said, the connections that you make there, it's a big level up from most. I would say it's probably equivalent to, everyone's talking Clubhouse. I would say LinkedIn has been Clubhouse for years. I've reached out to some really big names and they'll actually message me back and have a conversation with me, which is crazy that people aren't, utilizing it. For me, it was a blessing. I've been banned from Facebook, I think 2 or 3 times now. And so during that time, first time I was frustrated, upset, second time I was like, you know what, I've been here, kind of like your whole thing with Microsoft. I have felt the same with Facebook. I'm back on Facebook now, but it literally gets, it's like my secondary or third, it's like on the back burner now. But I'm so grateful looking back on it because it made me start digging into LinkedIn. And once I start digging into LinkedIn and seeing how it worked, I was able to grow a fairly big audience there. And I get so much more interaction, and the people that I interact with are actually my customers, which is crazy because I'm a B2B business. So that's a great tip. And a lot of people don't know that you can actually send video over LinkedIn messages, which is awesome. You could say, hey, Paul, this is Andy. I've got some new software that you might be interested in. Here's a quick demo. If you're interested here, here's the thing to book a call with me. If you're not interested, no problem. If there's any way I can, help you or connect you with other people on LinkedIn, I'm totally willing. That's what people want. They want that, especially in these times where people are locked inside all day long. They want that more human, interaction. And these, spam messages, whenever it's hilarious. They'll send the spam message with the link to their website and then like a Calendly link. And it's so funny because as soon as I open that message, I click the close. But, if somebody messages me and like, hey, I'd love to connect. Like, what are you up to today? Like even something that simple, I'm like, okay, more, that's more of a human interaction. They might try to sell me after I accept the connection, but to me, that's a much better tactic. And, people really need to learn that marketing is going a different way now, right? Like you said, Gary Vee pioneered it. And I think that that's where it is now it is a permission-based marketing, but the value has to be given up front for people to know and trust you. And then you can start saying, hey, by the way, I have this thing that's going to make your life better. And that's the other thing is making people know, like, it's easy to sell something when it's going to make their life better, right? So I think those are a few elements that people are missing.
And I think there's some great points there. And for me, I think you hit the nail on the head. Permission, when you're outreaching, permission is critical. And there's one word I use on LinkedIn than any other. And, when I'm reaching out to people, and it's a simple word, it's open. Are you open to connecting? Are you open to having a call? Always ask permission by using the word open, right? It gives them the power of making the choice. And, that alone will differentiate you from everyone else that is making an assumption. It's not permission. They're saying, I assume you're this. No, you've got to find out what someone is. And video is so powerful in that way. And, what I love is that, so with Dub, you can actually, just link the video straight into the messenger. But what I'll often do is also, if they've got their correct email address in the contacts, I'll have their profile up, but I'll send it an email. But the ultimate goal I think social is really there to build the audience, build the connection, right? The ultimate goal for me is you sell on your list. right? And I think so many people get that the wrong way around. They try to sell on LinkedIn, right? For me, what I want to do is build a relationship. 3% of people are ready to buy from me at any one time, right? So why would I treat the 97 like the 3? So what I want to do is get people from LinkedIn, which you don't own. It's basically to use your wife's analogy, Andy, it's building on someone else's land. Move them across to your list, and then you can build a relationship and then sell to them on the list. And I think that's so video and open gives you the permission to do that, to build the relationship, and then get them on your list and sell on your list.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, the other thing, is giving the value up front, and not, just sending them to a ClickFunnels page to say, hey, click here to buy on your first interaction. The chances of that are very low, and it's just going to piss people off. Really.
Yeah.
They're just, not going to want to deal with you. So, yeah, we talked a lot about, systems and work flexibility. One of the things that, I would love, or something I'd love for you to do is, go through a day in Paul's life in terms of, getting up in the morning, interacting with your team, because that's one thing I think that a lot of people hear that, but they don't know how to actually put that into practice.
Yeah. So, I get up because American. I'm in Australia, American time. I get up, 5:30 most mornings, and what I'll do first is, my stretches. So I've got a routine of that. Then I come and normally I've got an interview or a client meeting or a sales call early in the morning. But as soon as I get out of those, I leave a Vox message to my team, a Voxer message saying, what my biggest win was for the day prior, what the key thing that I'm focusing on for today, and what I need help on. And then my team, whenever they get onto their time zone in the morning, they do the same thing. So I think that's a great way of, yes, we mightn't talk physically during the day, but we've set that up. So doing that, I think, is really important. I do my biggest tasks in the morning, and then I get to my tasks late. So I say to my team, if you want me to specifically do something that's urgent, Vox me, because the Voxer is my, like SMS. I'll always answer that, but I may not get to my task. I have someone that screens all of my emails, so I don't open my inbox at all. What they'll do is either answer it for me, or what they'll do is, if there's something I've specifically got to do, they'll task me in Asana. So then I'll go back and just quickly on the middle of the day, I normally ride my bike, have a swim. The most important thing I do in my life is have a 30-minute nap every day. So it's normally 7 minutes of meditation, 30 minutes sleep. So that sort of then recharges me. I go have a cold shower, and then I work on the back half of my day. So that's a bit of a summary of what I do. And then at the end of the day, I always have a daily reflection. Now, what were my key wins for the day? What are a couple of my key challenges? And most importantly, grateful, what was I grateful for that day? But also, how did I create a grateful gesture in someone else's life in that day? And then that's it.
I love that, Paul. And one of the things that I've really, really been trying hard on it, and I find makes a huge difference in my life, so I encourage everyone to do that, is the exact same thing is, just give gratitude to the world. As bad as your day is, like this morning, like I said, I have 3 kids. Taking my kids to school this morning was a nightmare. But on the way to school, about 5 minutes before we got to school, I told my kids, hey, today you get to choose before you step out of this car how your day is going to be. Is it going to be a good day? Is it going to be a bad day? You get to choose that. And I really hope that you choose it's going to be a good day. And then I asked each of my kids, like, so, one of my kids' name's Archie. Archie, how's your day going to be? Well, it's going to be all right. I said, all right, really? You just want it to be all right? Shouldn't it be a great day? And, I'm really trying to coach them on that, because when you start that day with a positive mindset, it really kind of, molds your, if nobody's seen The Secret or whatever, a lot of people think that's hokey, but there's a lot of truth to manifesting, all kinds of things, when you speak it out loud, when you, think it, things like that. And it can also work against you, right? If you get up and you're like, I hate my life, I have so much to do today, I don't have enough money, I hate my job, then that's the theme of your whole day. So that's something I've been really trying hard to do myself. The other thing is, you also, like, nowadays there's so much media, right? We consume so much every day of information. And, I used to like every day, like, marketing and, all stuff like really business related. And then I realized, that's just jumbling up my brain, like, so a lot of things now is I'm listening to people who are just positive mindset, like, once again, like Tony Robbins, because I feel like if you get to that positive mindset, then all that other stuff comes so much more naturally. And you really get clarity on what you need to do next. So, I absolutely love that routine, Paul. The other thing I've been getting back into, which makes a huge difference, is just moving your body, right? Working out. I've been going to the gym, eating, much more healthy, fasting, all the things that, you hear and you're like, plan on, I'll do that someday, when X, Y, or Z isn't here, I'll, get to that. But that makes a big difference. But everybody listening today, if you want to start with one thing, I say start with the positive mindset in the morning. If you're like me, unfortunately, Paul, I'm a little jealous of the being able to meditate and stuff. I always laugh. I kind of laugh when people say that. I'm like, you don't have 3 kids, do you?
Well,
Because
meditation though, the thing that changed my life with meditation was like, it can be while you're active, right? So when I'm riding my bike, I'm in a
oh,
meditative state.
absolutely. Yeah.
When I'm swimming, I count the bubbles and thoughts are always going to come in your head, right? We're meaning making machines. But if you just acknowledge the thought and then just going back to focusing on the bubbles in the pool, that's a form of meditation. So you don't always have to be still.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. And what I've been doing lately is exactly that. I'll just at night, I'm usually working after the kids go to bed. And, I've been lately just putting my laptop aside, sitting on the ground, with my back against the couch and just kind of closing my eyes and, picturing, positive things or, goals or, things like that, or just nothing at all, just clearing your mind, so those are great points. All right, this is the other thing I love to ask Paul, because once again, I used to listen to probably an audiobook every day or two. I used to commute for quite a while back when I was working the 9 to 5, which is quite a long time ago now. But any media, podcasts, YouTube channels, books, anything that you're really into right now that you feel like has made a big impact in your life.
Yeah, look, I've got a core set of podcasts that I listen to every day. So yes, I'm a podcaster, but I'm also a podcast junkie, and I listen at 2.5 to 3 times speed, and I consume quite a lot of content. But some of my favorites, so there's a guy called James Schramko from Superfast Business. I'm a regular listener of his. Pat Flynn, I listen to his. There's a guy, Ari Meisel, who unfortunately is going to close his podcast soon, but I always listen to his. There's Growth Experts from Dennis. I listen to that. And also Marketing School by a past guest of yours, as you mentioned. So that's great. And then I've got on the weekends, then I listen to things like I think it's called Intelligence Squared, which is a great podcast where they have intellectual debates on different topics. And then I listen to a lot of American history. Grew up in Australia. Most of my clients now are in North America, particularly America. So I want to understand as much of your history as possible. So I spend a lot of time listening to American history. And I suppose what's interesting is you go back that I know it's been very turbulent, but I don't think it's been the only time that in American history that there's been a bit of turbulence.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that my wife and I were talking about this the other night is, for quite a few years now, I mean, we've just been, we're just posh here, right? We're watching our Netflix. If our DoorDash guy is late, we throw a fit, right? I mean, it's like putting it into perspective. I mean, how many of us that are still alive, ran into a spray of bullets from German soldiers, right? I mean, that's it's crazy to me that yeah, we're spoiled. We're absolutely spoiled. And our kids are spoiled, and we are trying really hard once again to make them aware of, you need to be grateful for what you have in terms of humanity. Like, yes, there's lots of problems now, but the kind of problems that we have now pale in comparison to even 20 years ago. The things that we have now, the way that we can get business, the way that we can earn money, the way that we can provide, the safety, the security. I mean, even though, like you said, it's been a little tumultuous lately, it's still easy, quote unquote easy.
Yeah, and you talked about media. I think just, for me, I was always on a plane for work. So often I was away from my family all over the world. One of the fundamental reasons I left corporate, A, was my health, but the other was to take my kids around the world. So I traveled with them. We used to go away minimum one time a year. Sometimes, we went to Europe for 8 weeks as an example, and showed them how other people live, because we are in a bit of a bubble here as well. It's a great place to live. I think Melbourne, before Corona, was voted the most livable city in the world. So it is a great place. So taking them to countries like the Philippines, South Africa, places where, their 20-year-old kids, and I interviewed someone yesterday that said her goal was to go from a 1-bedroom to a 2-bedroom to ultimately, owning the land that their house is on. Very different to what my children at 19 and 16, their goals in life.
Yeah, absolutely. And the dynamic is changing, and my hope is that we come back to the middle, right? It's so, at least in America, you're saying, right now it's so polarized, but when you really sit two people down in a room and ask them what's important, they'll probably agree on 80% of the issues, right? And unfortunately, my hope is that, in a lot of other democracies, there's more than two parties, right? Here, there's two parties. And so when you have two opposing forces, intrinsically that's going to escalate, right? It's like putting two armies on each side of a border, right? I mean, it's always going to get worse before it gets better, unless you bring in a third, party that's like, hey, wait a minute, guys, you have a really good idea with that. This is a really good idea from there. Let's put that together and let's make this work and let's compromise. And, that's what we used to do here. But unfortunately, people are digging their heels in rather than, actually sitting down and listening to each other. So anyway, that's a whole nother podcast. But Paul, thank you so much for being on. I really enjoyed our time together. Let people know where they can find you.
Yeah. So the key site to go to is paulhigginsmentoring.com. So that's where I've got my podcast, my book, and then there's also where my products are is Build, Live, Give. But if you go to paulhigginsmentoring.com, it takes you to everywhere else. And I'll make sure that my team send you guys the links that I've mentioned as well in the podcast, where there's some resources that I hope gives you value.
Awesome. Thank you again, Paul. Really appreciate it. All right, guys, if you didn't know, we do this every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific time. We do that for a reason. It's kind of hard sometimes for Amy and I to get here, every day at that time undisturbed. But the reason we do it is because we really love for you guys to join us live, to interact with people like Paul, where you get to ask him questions. We get a lot of people on where if you tried to call them on the phone and ask them questions, they charge you, an ungodly amount of money. So please join us live in the Zoom call. We really love having you guys here. We have, some regulars. We really appreciate you guys. That you guys are always in here. Thank you so much for that. And if you can't catch us live, as usual, we're on every major podcast platform. Please rate, review, subscribe. We really appreciate that, guys. We continue to grow, and we love to get to as many people as possible to help them. If you ever want to reach out with a guest idea or request on something we should cover, please do that. Andy@sellerseo.com is my direct email. Thank you guys so much for being here, and we'll see you next time on the Seller Roundtable.
Thanks for tuning in. Join us every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for live Q&A and bonus content after the recording at sellerroundtable.com. Sponsored by the ultimate software tool for Amazon sales and growth, sellerseo.com and amazingathome.com.